webinars. Today we're going to be looking at supply chains and also some aspects of the retail and wholesale sectors and how people are coping with the current events. We have a number of speakers for you this morning, including myself. I'm Stuart Hurry from Scottish Business Resilience Centre, and I'm employed there as a supply chain security advisor. Also in the webinar this morning, we'll have Paul Raw from BSI. We've got Louise Mills from the Road Haulage Association, and we've got a very experienced team from the Co-op, Martin Ian Smith, John Rowan, and Lady McAnally. Hopefully by the end of the session, you'll be able to understand some of the strategic and management considerations that you should be looking at just in order to make sure that your businesses are managing and that you are delivering to your customers and to your suppliers. Also some aspects of the business resilience and business continuity plans, and what the important parts of those are and will be, and also sort of going forward when we come out of this current situation. Some of the legislation around furloughing, changes to the policies in relation to drivers, etc., as it relates to the haulage and logistics sectors. We'll look at some of the kind of practical processes and procedures that businesses can implement that can function at present, and then we'll look at some practical advice on security measures in relation to your premises, vehicles, personnel, and some cyber security issues that you may want to be aware of. We'll also provide you with a number of links for additional help should you need it. And at the end, we will have a question and answer session. Those delegates who have joined us, you will have the option to ask questions. If you could use the Q&A section as opposed to the chat, that would be appreciated. As if you put something in the chat, then everybody who's on the call gets to see it, and it's easier for us to manage and answer questions if it's them all in one section. So with that, what I'll do is I'll pass over to Paul Raw from BSI, and he'll take us through this section.
Thanks, Stuart, and good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to take you through the slides and presentation for the business continuity and building of a recovery strategy in light of the current COVID-19 situation. Obviously, it's a very quick overhead view of the entire process summed up in a 15-minute presentation. So the aim of the presentation is generally to stimulate conversation and further discussions, and to identify pinch points and possible areas of action in a very small overview. Firstly, introduction to myself. I'm a senior consultant in the supply chain sector for BSI. My area of responsibility is supply chain and overall risk management. I've been with BSI for 11 months, and prior to that I was working in different areas of the world on different consultancy tasks and projects and engagements. My region is EMEA, but we also operate globally in terms of the capability that we offer from a consultancy service from BSI. My subject area of expertise is disaster and emergency management, which includes business continuity, crisis management, resiliency planning, risk management, and so on and so forth. And my consultancy focus is security, risk management, business continuity, crisis management, and resiliency. The aim of today is to give an insight as to what the business continuity management actually is and how it came about, in order to give it some perspective further to that, we'll have a look at some of the key elements of business continuity management and applying business continuity management to our own businesses. And then we'll have a very quick look at the response and recovery planning aspect. And then, as Stuart said, at the end of the presentations, there'll be a Q&A session where you can ask any questions that you would like to. So without further ado, what is business continuity and how did it come about? Now, I've put this slide in there in order to add some context. Those of us who focus on business continuity and crisis management will be very familiar with the various different aspects of it. But quite often when I engage with clients, there's an element of confusion about what is crisis management versus business continuity management versus resilience. So in a very quick overview, essentially, crisis management was the starting point, and it sort of was initiated after the Vietnam War when lots of ex-servicemen were coming back from their conscripted service into the marketplace, and they found that they had skills for dealing with dynamic situations, making quick, effective decisions, and they were employed and largely put into action in the field of crisis management, which was a very singular focus area in response to any particular event. Following on from that, they saw the value in the crisis management process, and so they decided to be more proactive in the way that they deal with crisis. And so that proactive approach to identifying problems, scenarios, risks, and threats then turned into a process called business continuity planning, which was a forward-thinking view of what possible scenarios could impact the business. Obviously, there are a number of different areas where businesses could be impacted. And so they began to develop clusters of individual business continuity plans. So the overall management of those individual plans became known as business continuity management. And that is the process for the development of how business continuity came about. And so if we look at it in the context of resilience itself, business continuity is a single element of a wider corporate strategic concept, which is resilience, which pulls in much wider areas of the business as opposed to just the business continuity element. So I've put that slide there just to give a very simplistic overview, because quite often when I talk to clients, there is some confusion about the various different systems, how they fit together, what people should be focusing on. Is resilience my focus? Is business continuity, or am I doing crisis management, or is this particular time frame in a response strategy, is that crisis management, or is it still part of business continuity? So I hope that slide gives a little bit of insight into that thought process, the way it developed, and where you might be in your particular plan at any particular time. When we talk about business continuity, crisis management, resilience, of course, there are numerous different standards. These are typical standards within Europe and the UK, but if we go to different geographical regions, they sometimes have different standards that they comply to, although a lot of them are internationally recognized. The important thing to appreciate that unless you're going for accreditation for a particular standard, many of the standards have the same areas of business analysis that you need to carry out for each of the different ones. So if you're literally using it as a guide, you could pick a number of these different ones without getting too absorbed into the final detail, so that you can use it as a guide and a handrail as you go through the process. So again, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't too much confusion about which international standard you should be going for. Once you become more established, obviously focusing in different areas of the
Paul,
business.
can I interject?
Yes.
Paul, can I interject quickly? Sorry.
Yes,
could you share your screens, your slides, please? I can't see them.
Sorry, I thought I was. Is that sharing now?
It's coming up. That's it.
Okay, my apologies, everyone. I thought I was actually sharing the screen there. So all of these different standards can be applied and can be used for guides and handrails. I'll just go back a couple of slides so that you can see the process there: crisis management, business continuity planning, business continuity management, and then a wider concept there in the form of resilience. So I've taken one of the standards just as a guide as we go through this process, so that we can have a look at the important elements. And we'll see there the context of the organization, to have an appreciation of where you're going, what your key functions are, and this one in particular, your dependencies within your business strategy, and particularly your supply chain. Leadership, again, is another critical element across all of these different standards. Looking at the management commitment, if we don't have top level management commitment, then we're not going to be able to follow through throughout the organization in implementing change that we need to at the required time. Planning and particular risk identification is a massive area of it. Support, having a look at the resources, understanding those resources and risk and support elements, and also then into the operation. This is the core business of what any organization will be doing. And so looking at the planning and control, the operational functions, communication, training and skills is again another very important aspect. Performance, it's a process of continual improvement and review. So again, another important and critically important communication, both inside the organization and outside the organization, up and down the chain. So the key elements of the business continuity lead to these questions. What are we, where are we now, and where do we want to end up? If we're looking for a map of success and how to map and build out of the current situation, we have to have a good understanding and idea of where we actually want to end up. Second one, what are the key functions that we need to perform? What are the dependencies that we have in those key functions? What are the risks to those key functions? How do we protect them? Who is the end user? And how do we get our goods and services to them? What is the situation, and has it changed? The process of continual review, and obviously on a daily basis, the situation in relation to coronavirus is changing on a daily basis. So we need to continually review that and have an appreciation of the different situation in different geographical regions, if that's where our business reaches and that's where the touch points are. How has the situation impacted our flow of goods or our services throughout the supply chain? And how do we communicate with our customers? Are our staff safe? And what is the human impact of the situation at the time on our business model? Human resources being a massive enabler and resource throughout any business continuity process. Now, I've put these questions up there, and we're not going to go into them in detail because we don't have the time to do so, but hopefully if you take these slides away with you, it will give you the opportunity to reflect on some of these questions, ask them of your own organization, and start to develop some of the key answers to these questions that you need in the business continuity plan. So how do we visualize those questions in our business plan? The easiest way and a really effective tool that I commonly use is simply to map out the flow of goods or services within your organization. We start with what base materials do we need, the manufacturing process, the warehousing, and the consumer aspect of it. How are we going to get it to market, and how do we service the consumer? And now think of those questions from the business continuity on the previous slide, and look at the key elements of that flow of goods, the interdependencies, as well as the risks and constraints that are applied to it. If we do that, then we start to develop a bit more of a complex picture. Simplified here, but we can have a look at the source materials, the logistics, warehousing, international boundaries, manufacturing, and consumers represented by the different colors. And if we look at the flow of goods or services, we can identify where these key elements come into our flow of goods, and we can identify some of the interaction points between those different capabilities. And when we start to do that, we can start to identify some of the pinch points. In this case, it could be a source-based material. For example, coronavirus, if you were sourcing raw materials or products out of China, then obviously there is going to be a massive impact on that. It could be manufacturing facilities. Again, it could be China, it could be anywhere else in the world. Or alternatively, it could be logistics service providers, which quite often has a large element of third-party engagement and subcontracted services, which many organizations don't fully appreciate how those services are subcontracted throughout their supply chain. So these different pinch points that we can identify. Once we've got the pinch points, we can start to create alternate plans, which is part of our business continuity strategy. If there is a failure at this point, we've got an alternative. If there's a failure at the warehousing, we've got an alternative. So on with the logistics and the manufacturing facilities, and also the route to market throughout the supply chain. That in itself, if we took that single process of drawing the flow of goods, identifying the pinch points and developing alternate opportunities and capabilities within that flow of goods, that's business continuity. If we took all of those standards away and simplified it into its very basic raw form, that is the process. And that's a really powerful tool if you're going to map out and identify where the pinch points are and where you need to focus your effort. So if we look at the response phase, business continuity runs in a cycle. It's prevention, mitigation, preparation, response, and recovery. Prior to the response phase, that's when the incident itself occurs. We're now in the response phase. Some organizations, some countries are actually looking at the recovery phase, which is the next phase. But if we looked at the response phase, these are some of the key questions, again, that we should be asking. And I'm not going to go through all of these questions because of the time constraint, but again, take the presentation away and have a look at these questions and ask them of your own organization. And then further to the questions, ask the so what? How is your supply chain changed and how? So if we understand that our supply chain has changed, we understand how it's changed, we've got to ask the question of, well, so what? What do we do about it? What are the steps that we can take to mitigate that risk or to bridge the gap that has been created by any particular circumstance or event? Has the market changed? Well, in this case, we know that it has, because we can't go out shopping, and therefore the sort of internet door delivery sort of model has emerged massively over the course of the coronavirus incident. So that's, again, another simple example of how the market might have changed. And there are a list of questions there that you begin to look at and answer for your own organization. If we go into the response phase, again, another list of questions that we can look at in order to map out where we are now, where we need to be, and how we can transition from here to our desired end state. And again, I don't have time to go through all of those at the moment, but happy to answer any questions in the question session at the end, or alternatively for you to take those away and have a look at those questions and ask them of your own organization. So managing the change, what sort of key tips could I give, or sort of indicators of the most important aspects? First of all, research. Know the environment, know what the risks are, know how the dynamics are changing. Make fully informed decisions in a timely manner. Be prepared for change. So we've talked about retail business, going straight to door deliveries, internet-based business, manufacturing products. Be flexible in the way that you look at manufacturers, where those manufacturing facilities are, where they're located, where the alternatives are, what the impacts of that are. Changing from China to Europe or the US might have a cost implication. So understand those implications as well. Understand the market. The demand for your products or services might not be the same as it was prior to that particular event. So understand that and understand what the key needs of your focused market are and try to satisfy them as they change. Understand the key drivers and independence. A lot of the supply chain issues that we will see and encounter are interdependencies based upon different areas of the business that you might not have had control over within your own business strategy. Be aware of those, communicate with your service providers and mitigate the risk of those independencies. Take a results-based approach. If you're on a journey of change, have an understanding of where you want to end up, as opposed to aimlessly trying to fight fires on a daily basis. Have a strategy for where you want to end up, because the decisions we take now will impact the future of our business beyond this particular event, the coronavirus incident or pandemic. Beyond that, the repercussions of the decisions we take now will still resonate within our business. So we've got to have a good understanding of where we want to be and the impact of the decisions we're making. And appreciate the opportunity. For those of you who haven't heard of a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. A SWOT analysis is a really powerful tool for making effective, informed decisions. The opportunities and threats are really relevant while we future plan, because for every dynamic, there will more than likely be an opportunity. And it's important that we appreciate those opportunities as well as the other elements, such as strengths, weaknesses, and threats. If there are two critical elements of a business continuity plan and things that we should be thinking of now as we're dealing with coronavirus, it's effective training. Human resource within our own organizations is the key asset and capability that we have. Make sure that your staff are fully aware of what their roles and responsibilities are, and make sure they know where you want to be at the end of this and what your targets and goals are as an organization. Fully informed people with the correct roles and responsibilities and understanding of those are very capable of steering your organization in the direction that you want it to go with minimal supervision, if they're fully informed and they have effective training. And then the second one, effective communication. Make sure that communication is internal, external, and up and down the chain. By making sure that people are fully informed and we know where we're going, what decisions have been made, we become more efficient, it becomes a more integrated approach, and we begin to generate momentum within the organization to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. That's the end of my presentation, and I apologize because even going so quickly, I've run over my time a little bit, so I apologize to that. But I hope I've triggered some areas of thought, and I'm happy to take on the discussion later on in the Q&A and beyond that as people might require. Now I'm going to hand over to Louise from the RHA to continue the discussion.
Hi, good morning everyone. So as Paul rightly said, thank you Paul. My name's Louise. I work for the Road Haulage Association, manager for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Today I'm going to go through 3 key areas, just once my presentation loads. I hope you can see that now. So I'm going to go through 3 key areas. What is the RHA and what do we do? I want to go through some legislative updates around COVID-19, and I also want to touch on a couple of human resource issues, particularly furlough. So who are the RHA? We are the trade association of choice for road transport. There's 3 areas in our business. There's the Business Bureau, which is our commercial offerings, our membership, which is our bread and butter, and the area of the business that I look after, and we've got policy. So policy have certainly been worth their salt in this period where we've had to go to government and fight for the industry. I've put some statistics and some figures down there that were accurate as of March 2020. I think interestingly, and the one that stands out particularly for me is that £124 billion is the value of the industry to the economy. And we have over 600,000 HGV drivers in the UK. And there's 2.54 million people actually employed within UK haulage and logistics. So the first legislative update I'd like to go through with you is the enforcement of driver's hours temporary relaxation. So when the writing was on the wall in terms of COVID-19 and the potential impact that it would have on supply chains, the UK and the economy, the Department for Transport issued guidance document exploring and explaining the temporary relaxation of driver's hours. Now this enforcement came into place However, it has been further relaxed to the 31st of May at 23:59 hours. Now, in response to requests, the Department for Transport decided to relax Article 14 EU 561/2006 regulation. That's the boring bit. The relaxation took place in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, followed shortly after. Relaxation will not reduce the level of enforcement of drivers' hours. These should only be used when needed and not in any way abused recklessly. It's also worth noting that when they further extended drivers' hours to the 31st of March, they did not extend the 4.5 hour period to 5.5 hours. So as of last Thursday, yes, all the legislation is relaxed, apart from they now have to take their break after 4.5 hours. The practical implementation of this legislation should be thoroughly agreed between employer and employee, and the driver in question must note in the back of tackle printouts the reasons why they've had to exceed normal limits. This is essential for enforcement purposes. Last week, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, as of the 17th of April, announced the relaxation on driver medicals. This one's quite emotive, as I'm sure you agree that nobody wants a repeat of the Glasgow bin lorry crash. That said, something had to be done. So under the scheme, drivers will be able to receive 1 year licence as long as they have no medical conditions that impact on their driving. Now, although there is the relaxation and drivers and anyone that holds a Class C or Class C plus E has to still go through the application process through DVLA. The only difference is that they do not have to put in their D4 medical. Two issues that have been raised on this. The first one is nobody can get a photograph done anywhere, and they've asked if they can use a photo that's maybe a couple of years old, or the photo said that they're happy to keep the same photograph as long as there is no major changes. The latest action from the government does keep supply chains flowing, keeps the NHS supply chain going, as it is temporary for 1 year. MOT testing. So from the 20th of March, MOT testing was suspended for 3 months. So all HGVs with an annual test have an extension put in place. DVSA are far too busy and it's massively backlogged, so you're not issued another bit of paper that says that you're extended for 3 months. But all the data has been updated digitally. PMIs, or as we know them better as 6-weekly inspections. So PMI intervals can be extended under the relaxation. It must be said that all vehicles should remain in a roadworthy condition, and no fresh maintenance contract is required. However, you do need a letter of justification from the workshop facility, so that if the Traffic Commissioner's Office, DVSA or the police ask, you can provide them with it. I have put in the link there in terms of managing your vehicle operator licence. But again, I just have to reiterate that the safety of vehicles on the road network is absolute priority. DVSA have confirmed it will not take enforcement action as long as I say, all minor and major defects are fixed and that there is no critical issues with the vehicle. Okay, tacho calibrations. So again, this is another piece of legislation that came out just last week. So as of the 8th of April, DVSA announced again a further 3-month extension on tacho calibrations. It must be said, if your tacho has a fault, you have to get it fixed. Tachos still need to operate effectively. Another issue that I'd like to raise on tacho calibrations and all the legislative updates is if you are an international operator and you are travelling through France or to France, In order to curb all those driving to France, including freight operators, must now complete an international attestation form to confirm the journey as essential. This is a new requirement for France and authorities, and it is in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. So we're finding that if operators are having to furlough staff, they're also not operating vehicles. So they have requested, we've had a lot of calls on how do you SORN vehicles. It's worth mentioning as well that obviously you have to inform your insurer. Put the online link there and the phone number, and you can do it the old-fashioned way by post. Ridder reporting. So I wanted to just put this in because sometimes ridder and health and safety issues tend to be overlooked because we're so busy sorting out the legislative work that needs to be done in terms of operating vehicles. So if something happens at work and it is COVID related and you have reasonable evidence to believe that someone has been diagnosed with COVID-19 or that they've shared this, please, you have to ensure that you're doing a ridder report. Social distancing. So this is becoming more and more prominent. Good practice for employers, which I'm sure you've seen all over the Gov.uk website, NHS Scotland website, but I just wanted to cover it off. Again, we have to look out for vulnerable groups. Drivers tend to be an ageing workforce. It's not the healthiest industry in the world. So if you have employees that you do believe have underlying health conditions or should be shielded, you need to ensure that they have a letter from their GP requesting that they are shielded or that they have a family member who is high risk. I would ask, just touching on what Paul was talking about in terms of the purpose of human resources within the business, that, you know, check employees' health questionnaires prior to employment, make sure that nothing is getting missed. Also, you know, have managers aware of how to spot the symptoms. Hand washing with soap and water. Personally, I'm quite baffled that we have to tell people to wash their hands, but there we go, it's the world we live in. And please provide hand sanitizer and tissues for staff and encourage them to use them. In terms of transport, obviously we are the lifeblood of the economy. You know, everything in this room alone is still on a shock at some point. So it is vital that we remain safe, healthy, and that we have plenty of drivers still working and not sick. 2 metre apart rule, hand washing again, 20 seconds or more. Be prudent, use common sense. And again, you know, in logistics, don't be afraid to have a frank and open conversation. Don't, you know, let your drivers feel that they can come to you and say, well, actually, I was at this RDC or I was at this depot and, you know, we weren't allowed toilet facilities, we weren't allowed hand washing facilities, and have that sort of two-way dialogue to protect your staff. So furlough, my new favourite F word. So the furloughed employee must have been in the payroll. It is now moved to the middle of March as opposed to the 28th of February. As you're probably all now aware, it has to be taken in a minimum of 3-week blocks to be eligible for the funding. Now, employers can claim once every 3 weeks. It is worth saying that the bulk of the haulage industry are paid weekly. And because it's now worked out on calendar days, it is causing some issues for operators and employers. If you have any issues regarding working it out, please get in touch with me after this webinar, whether you're a member or a non-member. We'd be happy to help. Okay, the employee must not be working at all in terms of at your place of work. The portal opened on Monday, 1 claim per period. I did go on the HMRC webinar on Monday afternoon just to get a better understanding of it. It still appears to be as clear as mud in terms of how you're working it out. I would also say that before you go on to do your claim, please make sure that you have all details for your employees, and as an employer and as a business that you have your own details as well. You must keep your records for 6 years, and at any point HMRC can come back and audit you on it. IR35, so this has been postponed due to Covid-19 until 2021. It does impact the self-employed, it does impact agency workers. We at the RHE have a Roadway Live app. I suggest you download it, it's free, and it gives you real-time updates. And I think you'll find it's quite worthwhile when it comes to sort of legislative updates like this. So again, just some points on IR35. I know it is a year away, but at the rate things are going, it'll be here before we know it. So please do consider these points that I've just put up regarding the tax implications of IR35. Contracts of employment. So from the 6th of April 2020, the right to contract of employment for employees is from day one. So you can have an employee in your business and then say, oh, well, I've got you here, you need to sign your contract. So they have to be issued with that contract from day one. The duration and the conditions of any probationary period have to be noted. How much notice you as the employer give the employee if you were to end employment and vice versa has to be disclosed. Details of sick leave and pay, and details of any other type of leave must be known. All remuneration, so not just pay, but if as an operator you, as most do, you do basic plus overtime, that has to be disclosed. And training element provided by the employer as any part of training, inductions, health and safety, all those good things. It should also say the normal working hours of the week, and if it is a variable houred contract that they're on, so let's say they're on 45-hour basic contract, but you expect them to work 55 hours, you must disclose that. Holiday pay. So again, as if we've not got enough going on, as of the 6th of April, they've changed how we work out holiday pay now. So previously it was on a 12-week reference period. This has been moved to a 52-week reference period. If the employee has worked for you for less than 52 weeks, then you have to sort of prorata it. The other thing is the 52-week period is not January to December, it's the 52 weeks that your holiday period runs from. So if it's June to July then, or January to December. Another change, as I say, the change in parental bereavement pay and leave. So it used to be that it was only the parents that got any sort of parental bereavement leave or pay. This is now changed in line with the modern world that we live in. And the core groups that are covered, you will see on the screen. So it's 26 weeks continuous service. You are entitled to statutory leave unless you have a private agreement with your employer. And it can be taken in one block or in 2 separate blocks. The link is below. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask, please do put in the Q&A box. And I'm now going to pass to Eddie McNally of the Co-op, who will carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thanks, everyone. My name is Eddie McInally. I'm a field risk officer with the Co-op. During COVID, roles moved over to be a resilience coordinator throughout the food business to support the stores to obviously keep them operating, keep them trading, keep our colleagues and customers safe whilst they're shopping and working within our stores. My presentation really is just a talk around an overview to share best practice, ways of working or hints and tips for any of the small independents or retailers that are looking for some guidance on how to manage controls, processes, etc. During this period. I just want to talk through how we've responded as a business to protect our colleagues, our customers, and obviously to ensure that our business performance is protected going forward as well. Obviously, when this pandemic kicked off, our business resilience, we estimated that we would lose 50% of our workforce through absence as a result of COVID-19. Currently, our absence is sitting around 20%. Now, that relates to around 12,000 colleagues so far has been impacted and been absent from work as a result. We currently have about 6,000 out of the business just now on sick leave, and as a result, we've implemented a direct hiring process, which is a fast-track recruitment process to get new colleagues back into the business to fill those gaps. As it stands just now, we've recruited within the food business around 6,000, which is more or less to fit the balance of the absences. Logistics, I think Martin next will give you an update on logistics, because I know that they've had quite a high number of absences and recruitment as well. How we've responded to, obviously for ourselves within the operationally within the business, we've taken a guide and a lead from the government. So we've really looked at the government guidelines and looked to adapt to our policies or processes within the stores to ensure that, one, we're trading legally, but we're also trading safely as well. The first thing that we've done, and I thought it was a good idea, certainly for some independents or other ones, but we drafted standard letters of authority to confirm that our colleagues were permitted to work in case they were challenged by police, which on a number of occasions they have been. We also structured a standard letter to local authority to ensure that our frontline staff had childcare, etc., as well, so allow them to go to work. Within the business, the first thing that we had to do is to review what our management team and store team done on a daily basis. So we reduced the number of management checks that we had in place, focusing now primarily on critical health and safety, food safety and hygiene, and the legal requirements to ensure that we are trading legally and safely within the stores. The first step that we had to do, obviously, was implement the social distancing process. We have policies on each part of this process, from the shop floor to the warehouse, from home delivery, from the delivery process, from queuing and crowd control. We are happy to share any of the processes that we've put together. The reason I've not created or prepared them on a slide today is they do change regularly and frequently. So at the end of this webinar today, I'll provide Stuart with a copy of all the policies and processes that we've put together and implemented. If you want a copy of them, contact Stuart and he'll forward them on, and any updates that we do we'll provide to Stuart, so you can always see what we're doing as a business. And I'd like to say, obviously, we've done a lot and we're in a good place as a result of what we've done so far. In addition to that as well, the one thing you have to be really, really clear on and sure about is obviously a cleaning regime within the stores as well. So we have reviewed our daily cleaning regime for stores, for petrol, logistics. Martin and Ian will come on to. And again, we're happy to share anything that we've got if you think it will be a benefit to use. In regards to our the social distancing, obviously we have had to look at how do we social distance on the shop floor. We've taken the guide from the government. Some of our stores have got a queuing system in place, depends on how many customers they can allow in at a time. We've got the 2 metre rule. The majority of our smaller stores, it's a one-way system. So there's a lot of good hints and tips that we've implemented in there that may benefit some of the smaller independent retailers And again, if you want to have a copy of those, we're happy to share those with you to work together. We've got processes for the replenishment, back of house. You know, so as I say, we're happy to share anything that we've got there. Around our colleague safety, obviously all of our stores now have installed screens at the kiosk and at checkouts, just to sort of ensure that 2 metre distance, and obviously the frontline colleagues as well, that they're not posed to contract the disease from anyone that's in shopping. I think most of the retailers have done the same. They've installed the screens as well. We've closed every second checkout or till, again, just to ensure that distance there. But we are looking to install further screens as well that will allow us to open more tills and checkouts to speed up the process for customers as well, where there is a need to do so. We've now secured orders for PPE for all of our colleagues. So all of our colleagues are now issued with gloves and with masks. However, it is optional whether or not they wear it. So we're not saying that they must wear it, but they have got the PPE there if they decide that they want to wear it. We have seen an increase in local enforcement, obviously, as a result, and some of this has been through visits to the stores or through complaints as well in regards to customers not abiding by the 2 metre rule and not being challenged. So again, there is a behavioural change as well with, you know, colleagues now not just dealing with the day-to-day aspects of retail as well as crime, but obviously now they're having to manage customers coming in relation to the social distancing. So we have had an increase in local authority queries as well on that, but we do work really well with local authorities. In Scotland, obviously, we operate differently. Down south, you have a primary authority, whereas any challenge from local authority goes through our head office, but in Scotland, we don't have any challenge from a local authority is dealt with locally, and it would normally be ourselves that would liaise with that local authority to resolve any issues that's been addressed or identified. We have seen an increase in violent crime as a result as well, and obviously we can appreciate it's quite frustrating for customers as well as staff when they're coming in. A lot of it is just customers venting off and venting their frustrations out with colleagues, but again, we've got a clear policy as zero tolerance. We do try to communicate as best we can and diffuse any situations within the stores, but we have seen an increase in customers coming in and venting their frustrations off at that. Some areas are quite demographic. Incident rate is higher in some areas than other areas, but obviously we report that as we would normally do, and we do involve the police as and when it is required. Police in general have been very good. They come in and support when it is required, but they're not coming in and challenging customers and things unless there is a need or a request from the store to support with that. In regards to the impact to the business, just now, currently we've had to close 21 stores nationally across the business, and I think that's quite a good start, to be honest, in comparison to the way it's affected a lot of businesses. But it's our city centre stores that are impacted more because of lockdown, social distancing. The rural stores, they're not impacted as much as with sales and business performance. Their average transaction number is down, as you would expect, because we can't let too many customers in at one time. However, their average basket spend is up. So as a business and trade, we're performing very well. I'm not here to give or shout out about what we're making in profit, as I don't think it's the right platform for that. There is one positive thing I'd like to share, and I was just getting confirmation before I announced that I was able to do so. But we announced as from yesterday, Department of Health in England are offering test kits for frontline workers. So from yesterday, any of our colleagues who have shown symptoms of COVID-19, they are able to get a test kit sent out. And that is done where the retailer would submit the information of the employee to the Department of Health in England. The Department of Health in England would arrange for a test kit to be sent out via Amazon the following day. The test kit is a nose swab. Royal Mail would collect the test kit the day after the swab was taken, and the results would be back within 48 to 72 hours. Now, I see that as a very, very positive step because it may reduce our absence from potential 7 days down to 3 or 14 days down to 11. Down to 4, depending. So that's going to massively support or reduce our absence level, which is a very good thing going forward, but also give a sense of well-being to the colleague who suspected that they had the virus as well. So that's a bit of reassurance to say that they've not got it. That's really it for me. As I say, it was really just an update operationally what we've done. We've followed the guidelines from the government in regards to social distancing. We've reviewed everything that we do in regards to performance operationally within the stores. We've got a direct hire process for new recruits that we can more or less take in one day. We still do the background checks behind that, but obviously it allows, if there is a need, we can take someone on the same day as they apply to help fill the gaps within recruitment in the stores to ensure that our customers have got availability and service, and that our stores have got the employees to keep themselves working. So I'd like to hand you over just now to Martin Stack from Co-op Logistics, and he'll give you a briefing on health and safety. Again, at the end of this, if there is any questions, please come forward. If there is a request for copies of any processes or policies that we've implemented as a result, please come forward at the end as well, and we can forward these on through Stuart at the SPRC. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. So I'm just going to touch on how COVID-19 has affected our logistics warehouse from a safety point of view, from a security point of view, and then my colleagues Ian and John will touch on how it affects the operations. Just so I'm sure, can you see my screen? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides. We're going to talk through some of the processes we've had to put in place, but I also want to show you just a quick video, maybe just to bring home what a different world we live in just now. So we'll touch on different things. I'll just show you this just now. So, as you can see, a very interesting world we lived in, I should say, in past tense, until this happened. There is no rule book for it. There is no building designed for social distancing. There is no business ready for the amount of panic buying on the scales that we have seen. Every business, every logistics, every retail network has had to adjust to a different world. And it's a massive, massive impact. Eddie's touched on the general absence with the group. Within logistics, we have a 20% absence. On our particular site in Newhouse, we have approximately 250 colleagues, either self-isolating or various COVID-19 positions in their health. There also is healthcare issues from colleagues with underlying health conditions. So we also, Eddie touched on obviously the business, and across all networks, you know, in retails, we're making a lot of sales. We're certainly making a lot of profit, but we're also spending astronomical sums of money in trying to make sure that all our colleagues, all our customers are being safe. You know, we don't have the actual figures, and obviously, as Eddie said, it's not the place to share it, but I think the general consensus is that we will probably just break even along with other companies. So, you know, it's very important to understand that, to understand what Newhouse as a depot does. So we're obviously we're the biggest transport operation in the west of Scotland, 285 drivers plus agency. So due to volume increases, due to absence, due to illness, we have taken on approximately 120 agency drivers to cope with the demands. Within a warehouse, we have taken on approximately 200 warehouse colleagues in the last month. We have 200 pieces of kit. By that we mean MHE and stuff we use to pick the actual product. We have a third-party VMU, which is Scania. Again, we have to make sure that they are looked after on the same course as our own colleagues. We serve 800 stores, including the whole of Scotland and Northern Ireland. We have a trunking depot up in Dalcross, which is Inverness, and we trunk up frozen stock from the north of Scotland in our Bitley depot, and our national distribution centre in Coventry is we trunk up all the slow-moving stuff. So it's a massive operation. COVID-19 has impacted massively upon us. We've had to change the whole setup of the warehouse. As I touched on, there's no building designed in the 20th century to social distance. Quite the opposite. It's all about interaction and, you know, being very much as a community, which is what the co-op is built on. And it's a massive, massive impact. Lots of money spent on protective shields in retail and at depots, social distancing posters, paperwork, lots and lots of stuff. We have to take people off operational duties so they can absolutely police and coach social distancing within warehouses. We've tried to reduce the spread of virus as much as possible. You know, thankfully, within this depot, we've had no confirmed cases, which is really good. We've reduced paperwork. All haulier drivers now email in paperwork. We don't have any paperwork. We don't give our drivers any paperwork to take to stores. It's all done by email. So a lot of stuff going on. Operational wise, so we have created rooms in the canteen, 2 metre spreads. We've had to put squares on the floor with chairs so that people sit 2 metres apart. We've done this in the waiting rooms, the drivers' waiting rooms. We have went against sort of policies, and we have now got permission from primary authorities, Eddie touched on, and the EHO up here to keep certain fire doors open, so there's less touching of these doors. So a lot of different things going on. Very, very difficult to police, very, very difficult to keep on top of it all. Myself and the rest of the senior team, you know, we're averaging 10-hour days, 6-day weeks, you know, so it's very, very important that, you know, the colleague is the absolute priority for us and obviously our customers. So a lot of stuff going on. Really, really important. You know, I understand Louise has said a lot of the logistics network has been furlonged. So we are doing our part. You know, we're obviously taking a lot of agency drivers on. We're using extra agency network companies rather than just in the same company. So a lot of stuff going on. So I'll pass to Ian and John to give you any other further updates. And as the chap said at the beginning, we'll open to any questions at the end. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Martin, thanks for that. Obviously, my name is Ian Smith. I'm the warehouse manager here at the Newhouse Distribution Centre. And just to kind of reiterate what both Martin and Paul Raw mentioned at the start of the webinar, that we had to basically take an approach where a business continuity approach, and that we took it from what does it look like for a colleague entering into our facility, into the depot, that we could sustainably manage accordingly in line with government and obviously the guidance that we were getting from health and safety and obviously our HRA partners. Very, very difficult. So I'll just do a quick overview of what we've introduced. We've introduced a one-way system where we allow our colleagues now to access in through the reception area. They then follow a footpath in that there is no congestion where pedestrians are walking in the opposite direction. And they have the ability to then enter their locker changing rooms in a controlled manner. Again, as Martin mentioned, we have taken out our union reps and members of my management team that will help police at strategic times, whether that be break time, whether that be performance break, whether that's restaurant, whether that's start and end of shifts time, but also continuously policing and patrolling on the shop floor. We have had a relaxation in our training requirements. So again, we really embraced and engaged with our agency providers early, in that we would always ask for particular skill sets, but we were conscious that certain retailing areas would be severely impacted with regards to people potentially losing their jobs or being, as you quite said, being furlonged. So what we've done is that a large amount of our new agency, and we've brought in literally 120 new agency in a 2-week period to help support us with our agents, our absence levels, and we had the ability to get them trained in a timely manner, but also in a safe manner. And obviously we're in that process still, in the sense of continuously replenishing and replacing colleagues as they go off. Yeah, very, very challenging. Certainly something I've never encountered in my lifetime. But yeah, I'll pass you over to John, and John can maybe give an overview on what's been going on in his section. I think there's a question that's just came up there. If I can answer them, we generally don't know how long these practices will continue. We have plans now to be in this position, and certainly for me, from a warehouse perspective, up to and including up to the end of September. So we have made all our strategic headcount and labour decisions around up to the end of September, and that's taken into consideration colleagues that may or may not come back from the sick. And obviously we're also fully aware that our colleagues have to have the rest allowance, i.e. take their holidays when they need to, so they can basically recover and keep themselves fit and able. Whilst we do appreciate maybe those holidays might not necessarily be abroad, but certainly we're trying our utmost to keep our colleagues safe, fresh, and have the ability to come to the place of work. But certainly from a warehouse operations perspective, we have planned the additional resource up to and including the end of September. John, I'll pass you over to
Yeah.
yourself.
Ian, if I can just answer one of the question from an operational point of view as well, Sarah McAnally here. The food business are planning to, if we do come off lockdown, if you like, throughout the summer, we're planning for a phase 2 of COVID around September, October, where the lockdown process we expect will go back into place. Now, regards to the source, if you're just looking at stats and obviously graphs and things that's been fed back from the government and things, but as a business, we expect maybe September, October will be a phase 2 of this, and we might go back into lockdown as well. In regards to how long do we think it can be sustained, we believe this will go on between 18 to 24 months in regards to a limited social distancing, and our current processes are more or less just follow throughout that period, or be re-implemented as and when is required. I hope that answers your question, David.
Okay. I know we're tight for time, guys, so just be a couple of minutes just talking about some transport related issues that we've had at our new house site up in Glasgow, Scotland. So a lot of our discussions very early on were involving our union colleagues unite on what we could do to kind of supplement the huge absence rates that we were seeing. So we were trying to do some work with local businesses to bring drivers in that they were furloughed, but proved very difficult to do. Some discussions with the unions on their sites. So eventually we came to an agreement that would bring in additional agency support. So we now have 4 driving agencies helping to supplement our absence. We use probably anywhere between 50 and 100 agencies depending on volume. Our supply chain volume has been hit really badly, particularly in ambient lines, probably about 50% out of stock on ambient lines, which is really limiting our volume through the site. We're now seeing local MPs from the islands that we serve going on local media and radios talking about the volumes going into the stores, whereas islanders would come off the island and go to the major supermarkets for weekly shopping. We're now seeing a trend of staying on the islands and going to their community shop. So CalMac had reduced a lot of the ferry services because of the amount of footfall going through. So we're now in discussions with CalMac directors about upscaling their ferry services again, so they can we can give a better service to islanders and the communities on the islands. So all in all, we're kind of plateauing out in transport really with drivers and with volumes. We've done a lot of work certainly in safety, driver kits issued, spraying cabs every 4 weeks, cleaning internals, externals of cabs, just to make sure drivers are safe, issuing disposable gloves, seat covers, hand sanitizer, looking at QR codes for drivers instead of paperwork, lots and lots of different things, ensuring everybody's safe now. So we're quite happy on site that we've done a lot of good things to keep our drivers safe and our colleagues safe as well. Happy to answer any questions that anybody might have transport related. But it's just really a quick kind of rundown of what's happening in transport. Thanks very much.
Is that going back over to yourself, Stuart?
Yep, I'll take it from here, Eddie. Thanks, and thanks to your team. Okay, folks, just to kind of finish off this morning's webinar, we will have just a quick look at sort of the risks in the current situation to businesses and workers some of the kind of physical aspects of security for premises, vehicles, personnel, and as I say, the cyber security considerations and the all-important links to additional help should you require them. Eddie had briefly alluded to the increase in crime against some of the shop staff. There's also clear evidence that there's increased activity around supply chains and the wholesaling section as criminals are taking advantage of the situation to, I guess, make profits out of the problems that people are facing. When there are shortages, there's always higher profits through the illicit or black market routes. So either opportunists or organised crime groups are heavily involved in taking advantage of any opportunities that they can find. There are some goods which wouldn't necessarily have previously been targeted, and things, you know, basically toilet paper and cleaning materials were not high on the list of targeted goods for criminals. But clearly, because of the shortages, there's opportunities for them to make significant profits through these illicit or black market routes. And very quickly, we've seen things like scams, online activity, again, just simply taking advantage of the opportunities that exist in people's fears and the desperation for information and guidance on what to do to make themselves safe. So if we look at just physical premises security, clearly site boundaries, some will just delineate where your property stops and next door property begins, but make sure that they're there. If we do have a security role to play, just make sure they're in good condition. If you're against your premises, again, you make sure that they're in good condition, and you have procedures in place so that if there is a gate man or processes for allowing people to enter and exit the property, that these procedures are in place and being adhered to. There are problems with obviously storage of goods at the moment. People are trying to kind of store increased amounts of product. So if you're doing that, make sure that the building construction is appropriate, roofs, doors and walls. You wouldn't want to put cigarettes or pharmaceuticals or perfumes in a hot cabin, so you know that's a basic kind of idea of what shouldn't be done. So have a look at the construction of the premises that you're using, or if you're looking at additional premises for additional storage, again, just make sure that they're appropriate for your needs. If you use CCTV, make sure that you're monitoring quality of images, your product facilities are all up to spec. You will probably at some stage need to access them to review if an incident is taking place, or if the police are looking for copies of CCTV should something have happened outside your premises or adjacent premises. And if you want to use criminal procedures to the courts, there are certain standards that need to be applied to your CCTV. So again, whoever provides those facilities for you, just make sure that they're up to date. Lighting is obviously important from a health and safety perspective to working in your premises, but also they're important to make sure that your CCTV images are useful and you can identify either persons or vehicles if required. Alarm systems, again, important. Make sure that all parts of the system are functioning, whether it's beams or physical contacts, and generally in premises are a combination of both. Think about doors, windows, shutters, fire exits, they are alarmed. Make sure if they're being used as entry points to buildings during the day to allow for social distancing, that they're secured properly at night and the alarms are active. Same goes for your offices. Storage of cash, you may not be getting the same cash uplift. Computers, any high value goods or bonded areas, again, just make sure alarm systems are functioning properly. Access control, this is about both staff and visitors to your site, and also what areas people are allowed to enter within that site. Gardening companies are widely used now. Make sure that their SIA, Security Industry Association approved, that licenses are on show. You will have, I would suggest, a higher standard of guard through the SIA companies rather than those that are not registered, and you'll probably in the long run save money because they will be able to actually do the job that you're looking to do them for. When it comes to vehicles, we are using containers, cut-and-sided vehicles, hard-bodied HGVs, panel vans. All of these types of kit are out on the road. There's nothing particularly new as far as physical security of the vehicles and containers is concerned. Like locking bars, bolt seals, cable seals, all of these things should be tamper evident. If the vehicle stops for any reason, before you start your journey again, the driver should be checking to make sure that there's been no tampering with the vehicle. And if there has been, then these things should be reported to the police immediately before the vehicle moves off, and obviously contact your head office to let them know what the situation and what's happened. Lots of companies are now using panel vans. If you look at the couriers, the number of parcels that these people have to deliver in a day, there is a potential for the vehicles to be left unlocked as they go and do a delivery. Again, making sure your drivers and the staff know the policies and procedures, fitting the traditional slam locks, either mechanical or electronic, or the armoured locks and protection plates to protect the vehicle when it's unattended. Trailers, if they're being left, there's kingpin locks, park brake locks, and make sure that these are activated when the vehicles are being left unattended. And driver training is absolutely key to making sure that the money and time spent to fit any of these bits of equipment actually function the way they should be. There's no point spending money if the drivers don't then use them. In addition, there's obviously a vast array of electronic kit available. With the vehicle telematics system, there's additional information that can be got from those systems with a number of companies that are out there. You've got dash cams, vehicle cams, and track and trace technology, all to help you identify that your vehicles are where they should be, where you should be, and it could be off the route. When it comes to personnel, at this stage there are a number of people who are obviously off sick, large number, and some staff need to be replaced. If at all possible, your HR procedures should not be watered down, and make sure that if you're taking somebody on, if you're doing it directly through the company, verify any documents that are submitted by the potential employee, checking for qualifications, references, and potentially a basic disclosure check. If you're using an agency, make sure it's quite clear whether it's the agency that's doing this for you or you're doing that in-house, and the agency are just identifying the personnel for you. Your policies, your security policies should be clear, unambiguous, and refreshed through training and looked at regularly to make sure they're fit for purpose. Guidance, make sure staff understand exactly what they should be doing if an incident takes place. Again, this can be reinforced through regular training, staff handbooks, and if you've got foreign either drivers or staff from other countries, either across Europe or other parts of the world, if English is not their first language, then make sure that they've got the information available in a language that you can read and understand. As I said previously, there's a number of scams on the go. Make sure that your staff are notified of any scams either current or emerging, such as around the corner or bogus officials or drivers making deliveries to potentially places that are not on the regular route. If your vehicles are having to park overnight and they're still fully loaded or over the weekend, again, make sure that it's either somewhere safe or preferably a secure parking location. There's not as many as there should be around the country, and through SPRC and some other colleagues, we are looking to work with different agencies to see if we can increase the number of sites and spaces available. Hijacking, fortunately, it happens very irregularly, but it should be reinforced to your staff that their safety is paramount, and if it's only if it's safe to do so, try and look in the number of details of persons or vehicles involved or any small bits of information that will be useful to the police. In your cyber security, phishing and spear phishing, sending fraudulent communications into your company, generally through emails, asking you to either deposit money to pay for fraudulent invoices, or hoping to be from a director asking you to pay a bill and giving you details when it was run through that system. But the way that the emails are designed, if you're not careful, you can fall foul of the scam. Malware, we've all heard of companies that have been involved where they've lost access to their databases and their systems, and they're having to either potentially pay money or lose information completely. It happens with small and large companies. Current advice is to report any malware activity as quickly as possible to the police, and under no circumstances to pay any fees that are requested from those that are involved in it. Because there's no guarantees at the end of the day that you're going to get your information back, and if you do get it back, it's actually back. People are using social engineering, man-in-the-middle attacks, any ways in which they can possibly get access to your system. To help secure yourself, make sure your patch management is up to scratch. We'll all have seen messages on our laptop, desktop, phones saying that the system needs to be updated. This should be done as quickly as possible. If you're using old equipment, some of it is no longer supported, and some of the software programs are also not supported. So if you're using old kit, just check to make sure that it's actually supported, and any vulnerabilities are being sorted by the company. Monitor and analyse your network activity. so you can identify any malicious or unusual activity. Make sure your firewalls and your internet, your Wi-Fi are all protected, and you can identify if there's any activity. If you've got software on your system that you don't use or don't need, make sure it's removed. Any default passwords, make sure that they're changed. User access, again, people should only get access to the apps and information that they need to do their jobs. And again, training of your staff is vitally important, just to make sure that they know what to look for potential scams and what the appropriate behaviour is when they're using the system in your company. A couple of things that you can do to make your systems and yourself more aware. The CISP, the Cyber Security Information Sharing Partnership. People from your IT department can sign on to the platform to share information and to discuss any potential issues with colleagues across the country. It's an application process which you can get through a link which is coming up shortly, and you will be approved for access to the site, and this is coordinated within Scottish Business Resilience Centre. Cyber Essentials is a government-backed scheme which will ensure that your IT systems are up to a minimum standard, and Cyber Essentials Plus takes you to that standard, and then in addition looks at physical test of your network. There is grants available for both of these, and certainly for Cyber Essentials, the majority, if not all, of the costs associated with getting accreditation will be covered by the grant. And again, there are links to the sites to get more information on the next slide. So, just in conclusion, I know we've run over quite a bit and we've got some questions. If you do have an incident, please report it. There's advice available from the police, insurance, your security company, and advisors to either SPRC, PSI, or for compliance and some of the regulations that include the Road Association. We have a national organisation that we supported, NAVSIS, to collate hate crime information and intelligence and work closely with police forces right across the UK. But the data that we have is only giving the information that they receive. If you want the police to take hate crime seriously, I'm not suggesting that they don't when it's reported, but if they don't know the full picture and they don't know the scale of the problem because it's not being reported, then it's not going to come to light before them. There's quite a bit of information on physical security of your vehicles through the CAP security guide, Capital Road Transport Guide. This is available on the SPRC website. You can get information in relation to your cyber resilience at the Gov.Scot Cyber Resilience or at the National Cyber Security Centre site, and both the links are there. The testing kits that Eddie alluded to during his presentation, the link there for the Department of Health site that you can use, and again just check the details on the site. We won't want to say that you'll definitely be qualified, but go through the site, have a look and see what it says, and if you're not sure whether it applies to you or to your business in Scotland, there's a possibility to go through your local MSP and get a question asked of them, and they can take it to the government and see if they get a response. If you've got any questions in relation to today's event, you can send emails to the link there, inquiries at SPRC, untitled.co.uk, and you'll either pass them on to the relevant individual, or the get us going to get that back to you as quickly as possible. That completes my presentation. We have a couple of questions. I see some have certainly kind of been answered. There's a couple come in through email. One of our main suppliers have allegedly gone into administration, as they've seen a letter that some customers have received. This particular company has not received said letter, but they are in furlough. Is there a way that we can find out if this is true or not? We'd like to believe every customer should be informed of companies going into administration. I don't know if Louise, have you had any dealings with that kind of thing through the Road Association with similar companies, maybe getting into some bother or non-payment of outstanding invoices?
Yeah, so sorry Stuart, I can't hear you terribly well, but I think the question was they've got a customer who owes them quite a bit of money, but they've furloughed all their staff, so they're not getting any communication. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, one of the suppliers has allegedly gone into administration. They've not received confirmation of that, and they're concerned that they've not been notified, and effectively how do they get the money that's owed?
Okay, so it's a contractually legal issue between the supplier and between the customer. It would depend where the source of, apparently this company's gone to the wall, or they've brought the administrators in, came from. What I suggest they do is I would check on company's house for a start. And then secondly, as I say, it's contractual. So until they receive notification that the customer, that the supplier has in fact gone into administration, fortunately there's nothing they can do at this stage.
Is company's house, is that somewhere that you should be able to get that information or at least verification that they are in?
Yeah, or if they're still active.
Right. Okay. Two others. Can the government please make companies who are in lockdown that work that's been previously done needs to be paid? All good and well that they're closed, but bills still need to be paid and work has to be done for them. I guess that's about again accessing and getting outstanding invoices paid. Is there are you aware of any kind of processes or advice that the Road Haulage Association have given out or already from yourself? But are you experiencing difficulties in payments either being made or invoices that you sent out? I'm not sure if that's one that we can answer or do we need to go back and maybe get some additional information.
So certainly there's no support from government for this particular issue at the moment. I think it would be fair to say, and the feedback that we've had from operators is that they may be owed, let's say, 100 grand, but the company that owes them is saying, well, actually, we can only pay you 25 grand. So they're getting a little bit of nothing as opposed to nothing.
Eddie, from your own experiences or anything that you can add? Or?
Two things, Stu. Your sound's not the best. It's quite hard to hear all of it, but I could check. I could take the question away if you forward it on, and I can look to see if we've come across that within our estate and get a response back to the person that's looking for that information. But not off the top of my head, no.
Right. Just one more while we're on. In general, why customers are stretching payment terms. This question came in, and the individual was the understanding that going back to Tony Blair's government, passed a law stating that 30 days was payment terms across the board. Are either of you in a position to kind of take that one, or is that something that we need to go back to the one? No. Okay, what I'll do is I'll circulate the questions to the panelists, and we can get a response and go back to the answer that you emailed. Okay. I think that's one other about Scrip. Scrip is a group partnership, supply chain risk industry partnership that's been set up UK-wide to look at risks within supply chains. The website that's up and running has a whole lot of information that companies can access to do with haulage, logistics, maritime transport, etc. And it's all taken from trusted sources. So if anybody's looking for information, I would like to see who's involved in that group and potentially become part of that group. You can access the website. And again, there's lots of useful information. FDRC are part of that, BSI are part of that, and so are the Road Haulage Association. So you get access to all the organisations through that partnership. I think that's all the questions. We've run considerably over time, but lots of information to get through. Hopefully the participants that are on the call have found it useful. If there's anything else that people would like information on, the inquiries email address at SDRC, just send an email to that and we'll get an answer to you as quickly as possible. And thank you very much indeed for taking part.